Welcome everybody to Exotic Car Play Place. Today I'm going to share with you the story of where I come from, why Exotic Car Play Place exists, and why true car enthusiasts decide to watch my channel. Before we get started, let's get comfortable. So coming from a humble, relatively middle-class family, we never had a lot of money growing up. And all I could do was see all the fancy cars in the neighborhoods, downtown, cruising around. I'd see that Ferrari roadside, and I just always get excited to see these cars. Sometimes a lot more than people, friends of mine. They'd see a Ferrari and yeah, that's a nice car, but that's kind of where it ended. For me, I was almost at a point where I was a little bit insane about how much I needed to go look at that car, and I couldn't look at it enough. I always had a sort of strange, unconventional passion for interesting cars, particularly exotic cars. Now, I've not always been just an exotic car guy. Growing up, we didn't have a lot of money, so we owned different cars. My first car was a little Mazda GLC, kind of a junky car, and that car was enough to motivate me to drive something nice and fast and interesting, because that car really was very, very slow. And a lot of times I found myself trying to get into traffic, and it was very painful because it was so slow. So time went on, and I became more motivated to drive something that had power, because I was tired of getting caught up in traffic and I couldn't pass or do whatever. Then one day I was out with my old man, and we were shopping at a stereo store, and I saw a picture of a Lamborghini Countach, the old Alpine Lamborghini. And actually, at that moment, I knew that I had to have that car. And I spoke to my old man at the time, and I told him, I promised him at that time that one day I would own that car. My passion started when I was young. I was a very young guy, and I really knew at that time that I had an unusual passion for supercars and fun cars, fast cars, unique cars. And so that evolved over years. As my income level rose, I was able to afford different cars, different types of things. And so I got to a point where, it was time to step up and buy something newer. And so I met my wife when we were starting to date. We got married, and then we decided it's time to step up and buy something more interesting. Well, we bought a BMW, which at the time we bought for the reason because a lot of other people buy BMWs because people are posers. And at the time I thought that was just kind of the cool thing to do. But realizing after we bought that car that there was some magic there. We bought a 3 Series way back, and it was almost new when we bought it, but not quite new. And I realized very soon that there was something magical about a BMW over a lot of the other cars I had driven. And it was hard to put your finger on it, but it really came down to the feel of the steering and the tightness, and even the way the doors closed and the way the car handled and sounded. It was a little bit cooler, I guess, if you will, than a lot of the mainstream cars that I had in Fords and Mazdas and Nissans. The BMW, there was something sort of different about it. And I recognized early on in life that BMW really did something unique. And so I knew that BMW was magical, and it was just sort of where I started to go with my sort of thought process in the cars that I like to drive. Then came along some friends. They bought themselves a 911, an early air-cooled 911. Then I got behind the wheel of that thing, and I realized, wow, this is absolutely next level. And so I fell in love with the 911s. Of course, we had the BMW. I then had to buy a 911 because I loved it so much. So I bought a 911 SC. It was a 79 Targa. Probably not the best example of what you consider a true enthusiast car for Porsche world. But you know what? It was great. It was black Targa with the little whale tail or the Carrera tail on it. And it looked really sharp. I had lots of compliments. It had great paint. And I really loved that car. I polished it. I buffed it. I washed it so much that people would comment that I'm going to wash the paint right off of it. So my passion for the German cars came from experiences. It's all about the experience. Growing up, I knew I liked interesting exotic cars because they were flashy and red and shiny. But I wasn't even thinking about BMWs and Porsches. They were under the radar. But it wasn't until I experienced those cars that I was able to gain the appreciation for what those things bring to the table. So years went on, and then I went to California, and I thought, I'm going to try a turbo. I had read a lot of things about a 911 turbo. That was a 930 at the time, and I didn't realize, that there'd be much more other than, they add the turbo noise. Well, we stopped at a little town called Santa Barbara. That little town Michael Jackson comes from? Well, we stopped in there because I found a car for sale, and it happened to be in Santa Barbara. Well, I jumped in the car with this local guy. He had a very unconventional icy green color with dark green shag interior. It's kind of a gross color in a lot of ways, but it was unique. And so we went for a drive, and we hit the on-ramp, and all I can remember was, holy shit, this thing goes like a madman. So at that time, I knew that I would have to get myself a turbo. I quickly got home, and the 911 SC was on the chopping block. So I bought myself a turbo shortly after getting home. I sold the 911 SC. I bought a turbo. It was an 81 Canadian car. Very clean. I bought it from a guy in Calgary, which is the adjacent city. And I lived and breathed Porsches for years. I owned the SC for several years, and then I bought the turbo, owned that for numerous years. And in that time frame, we bought a couple of other different BMWs because, again, as I said, it was the experience that led me to driving these cars. Now, this kind of where do I come from and where did this channel evolve from? Well, my need to drive these cars, and personally, it was a personal need. It was a need to drive these. It was a need to own these. As a true car enthusiast, it was a need to experience what these interesting cars had to offer. So that leads me down the next path. As a person who comes from a humble background with not a lot of disposable income, you had to find ways, or I had to find ways to be able to afford these cars. It's great that you can save up and buy them, but as everybody knows, BMWs and Porsches and whatever else, they're cars that really do require a little bit additional maintenance. And maintenance costs a lot more money with the German cars. So I had to get creative to be able to afford these cars. I had to quickly learn how to build, how to work on these, how to modify them, how to even do simple things like valve adjustments on a 911, or how to do an oil change on a 911 or a BMW, doing brakes, doing tires, the basics. But I had to learn that because if I wanted to keep these cars, I really had to understand how they worked and be able to fix them myself. That's the only way a middle-class guy like me was able to do that. So years evolved. Income levels slowly rose over the years. I was able to upgrade and modify cars. And then I finally got myself to a place where at a certain job, I ran into a person who coincidentally now, actually my channel manager, should I say. He also has his own YouTube channel of a different genre, but him and I became friends at work where we were working together. And he then convinced me that I had a way that I could express my passion through the screen to you guys. And the passion is to drive fun cars. Fun cars. Fun cars. That's the key, because I wasn't about driving A to B. I mean, everybody needs a car to go from A to B. Home to work. Home to school. Home on go on vacations. Get your kids to school. Whatever it is, get groceries. Everybody needs some kind of transportation when you live and in a place where it's all spread out. So, I had more than just the need, I had the passion. And the passion was for driving fun cars that made every driving experience interesting. And so that leads me to the channel. So my partner there, who now, again, of course, was starting a YouTube channel. He started several months before I did, but he's a lot more techie savvy than I am. I'm a little more down to basics. I'm more the hands-on guy, and he's a little more tech savvy. As he's got more or less an engineering background, he was able to bring some of that wisdom and knowledge and transfer it through to the YouTube world. And so after having discussions with him, I soon realized that, my days of ideal job, by the way, was working for like a Top Gear or working for Car and Driver and test driving these special cars, reviewing them, and expressing my opinion to the public like you guys. That was always my passion for driving these interesting cars and conveying that experience to those that don't necessarily have the experience to drive them, or maybe can't afford them, or maybe are shopping for these cars and just wonder what that's all about before spending the money. So I wanted to have the passion of how to fix these cars, how to own them, how to operate them, how to drive them within a relatively modest budget, and more importantly, sharing the experience with you guys, sharing the experience with friends and family, the public. Because Top Gear wasn't reaching out to me. Car and Driver, Road and Track, they weren't reaching out to me. Here I was a humble guy up in northern Canada, trying to find ways that I could own these cars, but also share the experiences with somebody. Well, this was a great platform because Brian shared with me the opportunity to share my knowledge, my experiences, whether it be fixing cars, maintaining cars, modifying cars, driving the wheels off of fun cars, because that's what my channels always are, is fun cars. Now, as you know already, if you've been watching my videos and my channel, you know that a lot of my video content has BMWs, Porsches, now I have Lamborghinis. And it's not going to stop there. Everybody thinks I'm the BMW guy. I get really pigeonholed, or I'm the reliability guy. No, the reliability comes from the means, the way to be able to afford a car and not getting into a hole. Why do you need to know about reliability? Well, it's not a bad way to go. If you're making a choice for, a piece of junk car or a good car, it's still a relevant conversation, even if it's a car based more on passion, which the cars that I drive typically are. So that's why I talk about reliability, but honestly, that's not really my channel. I am a guy convincing you guys, showing you guys the experience you can have with supercars, high-end premium cars that are fun to drive, manual trannies, double clutch transmissions, exotics, racetrack time. All of this stuff is really what I'm about. And now I'm a almost middle-aged guy, 4 kids, a wife, and I'm going to share this experience with you guys, everything about it. And that's why, as a true car enthusiast, if you guys are car enthusiasts and really want to learn how that you can afford to drive some of these really cool cars on a modest budget, you don't need to have that $1 million bank account to drive some of these cars. And I'm going to show you guys really how that's done. I'm also going to share with you the full experiences of driving these. And that's where Exotic Car Play Place comes from. That's where it's all about. That's how I developed this channel and this strategy to convince you guys that you can honestly afford some of these cars. It doesn't mean you have to buy the most unreliable cars. It just means that I'm trying to motivate you guys to express your passion in other ways. You don't only have to watch TV. If you guys are true passionate car people like I am, why not enjoy life? Life's way too short to drive boring cars. I don't want to drive boring cars. We only live so long. We're on this planet for so long. And me, as being a car guy, passionate about these cars and passionate about Exotic Car Play Place, I'd call myself, honestly, a dingle fritz if I wasn't expressing that passion and actually driving the cars that I want to drive versus driving the cars that are based out of necessity. So I don't want to be a dingle fritz. I want to be a true car enthusiast, and I want to express that passion, that willingness to own and operate fun cars. And I'm going to share with you guys the experience that you too can have. This is all about the experience. That's what Exotic Car Play Place is. The experience of driving exciting cars and fun cars. And honestly, guys, it's the passion that motivates. It has to be the passion. If you're not a car guy, I get it. But if you are, you've come to the right place, because this is the place where you want to see, BMWs. Maybe you want to see a Porsche. Maybe you want to see some track time. But hey, I've got a Lamborghini too. And honestly, at some point, I will likely be upgrading that as well. So this isn't about saying I'm the BMW guy. This is about being a guy on a relatively decent, modest income, being able to express his passion through interest of driving these cars, fun cars, fast cars, interesting cars. I don't care. Maybe today's a BMW, maybe tomorrow it's an Audi. Maybe today it's a Lamborghini, maybe tomorrow it's a McLaren. Maybe today it's, whatever. It is what it is. It's just about the passion. Honestly, I've driven Corvettes, and that thing was really, really exciting, and I would honestly drive something like that too. So it doesn't matter about what these cars are. I'm not about driving the name brand. I am myself my own brand. I'm going to be the brand. Exotic Car Play Place is the brand. And that brand really is about driving cool cars based on passion, speed, power, aggression, and I don't really care about the fact that it's a BMW. Maybe BMW turns into a bunch of automatic little 20 horsepower jalopies. I'm not going to follow the brand. I'm driving BMW right now because they're fun cars. Same thing with Lamborghini. It's an exciting car driving experience. That's what I'm trying to share with you guys. That's Exotic Car Play Place. That's kind of where I came from. And I really hope you guys enjoy the channel, guys. I really welcome you. Definitely don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the notifications. And again, that's going to let you know when all the future videos start coming out. Because again, this channel is based on passion, not just a necessity, not just about being branding as a BMW guy or a whatever. I don't even care. BMW's not paying me. Lambo's not paying me. As a matter of fact, tomorrow I could walk away tomorrow. If I found something more exciting for a daily driver or a fun toy that was within my means, trust me, I'll go there. Right now, I've got a group of cars that I enjoy, and I hope you guys enjoy them too. So hope to see you guys real soon. Catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.